All right. And YouTube says we're live. I never know if there's an awkward pause in between everything. Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Higginbotham. I am the creator and executive producer of Your Tomorrow. And I am joined by a plethora of people here on the New Year's Eve of 2022. We are hours away. Well, I guess it depends on what time zone you're in. I guess since the show is UTC, we're only a couple hours away from 2022. I am joined by our very own big giant head, Ryan Caton. Hello. We've got him on his normal screen just for fun. And then we have, as a test...
the creator and executive producer of Your Tomorrow.
Jared, you have to turn off your audio. Thank you. You've got looping audio going on. And that's how this show is going to be, because this is a test of all of our technology and whatnot to see if we can actually bring you, the guests, into the show. So we have got a bunch of citizens of tomorrow joining us, and we're going to kind of go around the table, and we're going to ask everyone what excites them about 2021, or like what were their favorite missions of 2021, and then what excites them for 2022. What are they looking forward to in the coming year? And then we're also going to ask what makes them a space geek. Like, how do they fall in love with space? And if you would like to join the conversation, you totally can. I'm living dangerously today, and I just posted the public Zoom link right in the channel description. So if you want to join, just click on that link down below. Don't do what Jared did, which is allow the audio to loop back around. And Dutta, one thing I didn't mention is you have the power to mute people if necessary. So you can just go into participants, select them, and hit mute as if you need to.
Copy. I muted them all for now.
Thank you. No, that's great. But actually, why don't we start with you, Ryan? Because you're a regular staple here. I do want to say 2021 on this channel, at least, was the year of Ryan. I was in the middle of transition. I wasn't comfortable coming on camera. We needed people to help talk about SpaceX because I can't talk about SpaceX. And I put a call out, and I don't remember if it was this year or last year. I think it was 2020.
Yeah, I joined in January last year.
Yep. But this is the year where you really stepped up, and you were really you took space news and you ran with it, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. There have been some great SpaceX updates that I've loved, and I work there, and somehow I've learned things from you. So kudos to you for that. So Ryan, why don't we start off with what were some of your favorite missions from 2021? What got you excited about space in 2021?
Straight out the gate in February, I think, was obviously Perseverance, the landing of the Mars rover. That was just crazy to see, and actual good high-definition video from NASA, albeit not live, but it was good video from Mars, which is just incredible. And of course, the countless helicopter flights we've had now from Ingenuity. That's just crazy to think that we're flying helicopters, or a helicopter, on another planet. Inspiration 4, big inspiration. Just for citizens, not trained astronauts, or they were trained, but not astronauts. They were just people, albeit one of them was quite successful in life. That was really cool to see. And then coming up to now, we've obviously had all the normal crew flights from SpaceX. That was very exciting to see. Yusuke Maezawa going up in a Soyuz in December. That was also very cool to see his videos on his channel of just how amazed he was from traveling to the ISS and how much fun he was having. And of course, we've had the Virgin Galactic suborbital flights and the Blue Origin suborbital flights. All of that sort of stuff just ramping up this year. That's really what's been exciting me.
And what about next year? What excites you for next year? For 2022? Hours away, Ryan. Hours away.
Literally less than 2 hours away now for me. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to see SLS fly. Fingers crossed, Starship goes orbital at some point. And fingers crossed, Starliner flies. And I know I've just jinxed all three of them.
Okay, wait, Ryan. I want to know, in your opinion, and we should ask everyone this, and also leave your comments. I want to know what you guys think. Which one goes first? Space Launch System, Starship Orbital, or Starliner? I guess that would be Orbital. It'd be Starliner to station, right?
Yeah, that would count.
Which one goes first?
So, I'm now, from the recent developments that have come from the FAA, I'm not so sure whether Starship or SLS is going to go first, but I feel that Starliner is definitely going to be the last one. So I'm not sure about SLS and Starship. They could be kind of equal, but Starliner is definitely last.
They're neck and neck.
Yeah.
All right. And then why, I guess my last question for you is, why are you passionate about space? What made you a space nerd? What got you hooked?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I've been into space things ever since I was a few months old, really. My dad always credits that it's him. I don't know whether that's true or not, because I can't remember that far back. But maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But yeah, it's just something I've always been interested in, and it's just like, how could you not be interested about space? It's so cool, everything that's happening up there.
Well, you are one of our hosts, so you are free at any time to interject, which I realize is hard to do when you're on Zoom with latency and whatnot. But if you have questions of any of our guests that we've got up on the screen, feel free to ask them. And I feel like, why don't we'll make our guests wait an extra moment, and why don't we go to Jared, because I know you're doing a live stream as well. So you're streaming twice, and here's hoping, remember, here's hoping Jared's audio is going to work correctly. But Jared, same questions to you. What were some of your favorite missions of 2021 and why?
Okay, so first things first, I want to make sure that I'm sounding nice and I'm coming through A-okay. I'm just gonna say a few things just to make sure. So
yep, you're good. You're good.
Okay, cool. So, oh my gosh, kind of to piggyback a little bit on what Ryan was talking about, just seeing Perseverance landing. We've just as someone who is an engineer and involved in that kind of stuff, and just looking at it, and the sky crane has always been this sort of nuts thing. I think Adam Steltzner describes it as the right kind of crazy, and I really agree with that. It is nuts, and it's the right kind of nuts. And to finally be able to see it in action after a decade and a half of when it was first designed is so cool. That was just amazing to get that footage. Obviously, Ingenuity's been amazing with the way it's been flying. I think something that a lot of people overlook a little bit with Perseverance, because NASA doesn't exactly push it much, but the audio recordings that they've been making with Perseverance. We finally have a microphone on Mars. They've been trying since Mars lander in 1999, and finally 2 decades later we got it. So that was one.
There's a beautiful irony, Jared, that when you said microphone, your audio froze.
Nice. That's good.
It was the end of 20. So for those who don't know, Betty White also just died. So the end of 2021 is I'm not done yet, and so
no, it's not.
It's still working against us.
It's taking everything out of the can.
So audio from an
obviously
alien
all
world,
the Starship flights. Oh, full blown. Still?
No, go.
I'm sorry. You're not talking about my audio. You're talking about Perseverance's audio. Yeah, it's just like hearing the rover in action and hearing it driving over rocks is just as bad as I was expecting aluminum wheels to sound. So it's that was great. And then the Starship flights, obviously watching those throughout a multitude of ways that they ended. That's the way it goes. In that type of fast and loose and get it done kind of engineering. And then I gotta say China too. China launching not only just the core module of their space station, but also a crew to their space station and continuing to operate even now with their space station. That's pretty exciting to see another country coming into the realm of somewhere that the United States and the Soviet Union / Russia that would dominate normally. So that was really cool to see that with him. And also, sample return missions too this year. We had Hayabusa 2, and although I think that was the tail end of 2020, but we got the Osiris Rex coming back as well, and there's just so much exciting stuff to look forward to. But also James Webb finally launching. Oh my gosh, how many decades have we been waiting for that to go, and now here we are, and it finally went.
And how about 2020? So 2022. So you met, first off, I was surprised that you didn't put a lot more time into James Webb Space Telescope. End of 2021, 344 single points of failure, which turns out not to be exactly true. But
it's not done. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not chasing it until it's done. So.
We gave them a mountain of crap for that.
Yeah, we did on Twitter or in Discord and everywhere else. Because
Live show
you know what? That's a future episode, because there is this interesting dichotomy between the robotic missions and the human spaceflight missions, and I think it was Doug Ellison on Twitter that pointed this out. Of, the robotic missions are, we've checked everything a million times, like 7 minutes of terror, 344 single points of failure. There's a lot of risk here. None of this may work. Which, there is a lot of risk and there is a possibility of failure. And then with human spaceflight, we're like, we've trained, we know what to do, we're all good here. It's like, yeah, but they're kind of the same. So why are we looking at this different ways? And yeah, I think that's a future episode. 2022, Jared, what are you thinking? What are you excited for in 2022?
Definitely excited for, hopefully, the Space Launch System finally taking off. That would be nice to see that. Also, I'm pretty sure Tori's going to want his engine, so it would be nice to see Vulcan off as well. In addition to that, obviously, first results coming from James Webb, assuming deployments and everything go well, I would absolutely... that is just going to be game-changing in every respect that you could possibly think of. So super exciting for that. Also, we've got Psyche launching to asteroid Psyche a little bit later. That's going to be really cool. Very interested to see where Starship is going and how the FAA is going to go. And actually, I really would love to see some policy revamps this year for the FAA in regards to both Starship and like suborbital flights and other things like that. I think the suborbital flights are going to be really cool because you're going to start to see more science being flown on those, as opposed to like rich people along for a joyride, which, I mean, that's fine. But the science has always been the exciting thing, at least for me, that, you no longer have to fly a payload to space with that expense. You can do your test on a suborbital flight and save millions of dollars that way. And then also, definitely, China's going to continue to build out their station. Definitely excited to see what they're going to do with that, and if they're going to expand their program with that. And then also, I mean, we're going to see the launch of the next round of Mars missions going there. So we've got Roscosmos launching their lander with the European Space Agency's Rosalind Franklin rover. So I'm super excited about that and seeing that finally off on its way. Hopefully Starliner flies. I really hope it does. Simply because, like, the folks at Boeing have worked pretty hard on it, so they deserve to finally get the fruits of their labor. And then I think one of my favorite ones that's happening this year that nobody's really talking about, Juno at Jupiter is going to do a very close flyby of Europa in September, and I'm very excited to see the imagery from that, simply because we haven't had imagery since Galileo, and Juno should absolutely get incredibly good detailed imagery of Europa, and I'm very excited to see what it gets from that.
Save something for somebody else.
Well, actually, so I'm listening to everything, and I'm like, here's what's happening. Can you go to the multi-view and full screen? So everyone's basically listening to what Jared is saying and then nodding, like they're like, yep, exactly. And so it's Mac 2-2 on your board, I believe.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So everyone's just nodding, right? Agreeing with Jared. And I think this isn't, so part of what I've always wanted the show to be is a bunch of space nerds just like hanging out and having a conversation. And when I am like, you talk to me, I don't think that's really how conversations go. So I'm going to add a little bit of chaos into this conversation. And I think what I'm going to do is we're going to open it up. So we kind of know the general questions of like, what's everyone excited about? And so I'm going to open it up to everyone who's decided to join in live and kind of start with, okay, let's go back into the early parts of 2021. What are you guys excited about? And let's talk about each one at a time and see who agrees. And like, maybe some people weren't very excited about that. That's okay too. You don't have to be excited about absolutely everything. So I'll kind of open it up to the floor in general, but that doesn't always work really well because no one ever wants to start. So I'm going to randomly pick Mike is giving me the best facial expression. Aha, ha, almost Nick, but I'm going to pick Mike because he gave me the best facial expression. So we're going to start with Mike. Name one of your favorite 2021 missions, and then we're going to open it up to the floor. See if you guys agree, disagree, and or like why it's also one of your favorite missions.
Well, thanks again for letting me to join you guys. This is going to be fun. Jared stole all my good answers, but one thing I'll say that was pretty cool from this year is I'm officially calling booster landings boring. They're like routine and boring now, which is awesome. That it's something that, you know, is just a part of the normal piece of spaceflight, it feels like, at least to the layman like me. So that's something that is pretty cool.
I want to ask the entire group, by show of hands, everyone that's joined in live, do you agree? Do you feel that booster landings at this point have gotten to a stage that are boring? Okay, so 1, 2, maybe.
Only if there's one at a time. Like 2 at a time is still cool as hell. Like that is bad. Like I want to see some more Falcon 9 Heavy missions. You know, calm down. That was the coolest video ever. To see 2 of them land simultaneous.
I want to see.
Unbelievable.
I want to see 3 at a time.
Return to launch site's good. Return to launch site's good because the quality of the video is so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that.
those
Hey, you just need a boy.
Go ahead, Dada.
Anything involving a rocket is exciting.
The only reason I really disagree with the landings not being exciting is I finally saw my first RTLS mission this summer. And it was, if you've never seen one in person, it doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right.
You know, it's funny. I've actually never seen one in person. I've had an opportunity to see a Falcon 9 launch. I've never had an opportunity to see one land. In person. I've seen plenty of them on video, but basically all of them on video, but I've never seen one actually in person. That's on my bucket list. I would love to see that sometime, or hear it more specifically, right?
Are you a good swimmer, Jamie?
Yes, but I'm not swimming out to a drone ship. Those are really far. Those are really far.
That's where most of them land.
Yeah.
Jamie, I think you could make it if you just attach a buoy to yourself. You'll be okay to get out there.
So for those who don't know, that is an ongoing joke. Because, you know, landing video is very, very difficult. And I can't go into technically why, and I can't go into any technical stuff. But I will say it's actually very, very difficult. And there are a lot of YouTube channels that have made videos about why it's so difficult and why some of them work better than others. And I will say that most of them get some of the data right, but no one's got all of it right. And I guarantee you there will be someone who is like, I don't understand why they don't just deploy a buoy. And it always gets me because I'm like, think about what a buoy does out in the ocean. Think about how a buoy reacts out in the ocean and why it won't work. Anyhow, so the control room, even at Company X, likes to give me a hard time about that, and I'm sure they're gonna make buoy shirts someday and just wear them all into the control room just to get me going. Yeah, it'll be great.
Okay, but drones don't do that.
Drones, well, yes, but I can't go into technical information. There is a yes, but there, and you got to think.
Nope.
I can't do any of it. I can't do any of it. I'm sorry.
It might be signal path.
I bet I know why.
Yeah, I can't. You guys can talk about it. I can't talk about any of it. I can't say any of it.
It was a requirement for when we were setting up remotes for Falcon 9. We couldn't have RF frequencies off our camera. I bet you that's why you can't fly a drone near the landing.
They got a requirement where you can't have a cell phone on a plane too. So.
Yeah. No, you can have cell phones on planes. You just can't have them on.
You can't have them on. Yeah,
but
because we all know. Yeah, we all know how many planes we keep crashing when we put our phones on during flight.
Actually, I have a legitimate question because I don't know the answer to this. So when you go and you do a Falcon 9 shoot and you're at the pad and you're doing a launch, you know, no signaling, but does that include Wi-Fi? Do you have to turn your Wi-Fi off too? Is it no RF whatsoever?
Pretty much you just want to minimize it as much as possible. It's not really a strict rule, but if it's emitting too much, your camera can get temporarily confiscated for the launch.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. I've actually never The last time we were out at launch was for shuttle, and it was very strict at that point. Like they came through and monitored everything, but it was a different era too, right? Like cellular wasn't what it is today. So, was there anyone else who said no to the booster landings? Like the booster landings still excite them? Jared, booster landings still excite you? Okay,
Yeah,
so Zach, okay, hang on, Jared. You had a moment to go first, so I want to go to Zach first, if that's all right. Because Zach, you actually answered, So why in the middle? Why? Like what still excites you about booster landings, and what doesn't?
I think they're really exciting for new people getting into space. I think we're seeing a lot of new people kind of rediscover the space industry still. And I've had the privilege of showing, a Falcon Heavy launch and then booster landings to some people even at work, and just seeing their face the first time when it's a video of that happening. But I also love it when we get to see it actually coming down through that longer tracking video. That gets me excited because you really get to see that whole returning to our planet. When it's kind of fuzzy the whole way through, and then we see it, then it's like, oh, okay, we landed another one. But it's still, wait, we're actually landing rockets? Like, this is crazy.
So is the favorite landing shot, this is another question for the group. Give me the multi-view data. Question for the group by show of hands. You've got effectively two options when you land. You can either see the onboard rocket camera coming all the way down. Do you prefer that? So who prefers that shot over the second shot, which is the onboard drone ship shot, where you see you're externally looking at the rocket? So show of hands, who prefers the onboard rocket shot?
That's because it works better.
Often
don't get the other one.
All right, hang on, Liam. So Liam says because it works better, but what if they both, let's pretend for a moment, and let's live in a fantasy world where they both work identically the same. I know, but if they both worked identically the same, which one would you prefer? I'll actually ask, Liam, I'll ask you, which one would you prefer if they worked the same, the onboard rocket cam or the external drone ship cam? Assuming you had to pick one.
The external.
Interesting.
Just and yeah, I know I haven't sort of given a reason for that. I do love both of them, so I've just got to say that's what's really there, and we have seen improvement, from the very first times that these were being captured. So it's not that things haven't moved the needle, and everything that Zach said about what's exciting about tracking that, it is pretty extraordinary to see this thing navigate itself in real time back to a landing or a sea landing, whatever, on the drone ship. So in a way, it will never be routine, but in another way, it sort of like is becoming routine just because, SpaceX has got so SpaceX is now the standard because no one else is doing this kind of thing. So it's just extraordinary that so quickly it's become, in my view, somewhat routine. But at the same time, I'm looking at it and thinking, this is the most amazing thing to witness.
Hang on, Liam. So you said it would never be routine, and I watched as the entire room all nodded in unison, agreeing with you. But right? But why? Why would it? Why? There's got to be a point when it's routine, no?
It might be.
I'll throw it to Nick.
Maybe for young people, but for us old people, no.
Sorry, so we'll
start
with Nick, and
then Nick. I'm going to seize the microphone and speak irrespective. 100 landings. The only excitement now, really, it's always exciting. I always do watch them. Don't make the mistake of thinking I've given up watching them. I don't always watch them live because the time zone isn't right. Unlike my mind, Ryan, I have to sleep at night. I can't stay up quite so late. I'm not wrong. But it's still worth watching. But almost one is watching in case something goes wrong because it's routinely successful now.
I think Steve, were you battling with Mike for the Nick for the mic?
I was. I was just saying, for us people who grew up with the Apollo missions, to see a rocket land is still just mind-boggling. But the young kids will get bored of it soon.
Well, all right.
That's what I think.
Well, let's expand on that, though. So you grew up with Apollo, then I'm assuming. Which is more exciting to you, a Saturn V launch or a Falcon 9 landing?
Well, I only had so many Apollo launches. We have so many more Falcon 9 landings. So at this point, I would say the first one that landed was, I just cried.
Huh.
You know, just cried. But I mean, I grew up. I'm old enough to have seen them on the moon live on TV, and nothing will beat that. Ever.
What happens when we go back to the moon? Will it feel the same, do you think? Or is it just...
Yeah, it will feel the same. It will feel the same. You know, for a time. And then it will be just tourists going to the moon, you know. But the first time back will be emotional, of course.
I think so, too.
I think go on.
No, go ahead. So the fun was Zoom latency.
Apollo. Yeah, I know. I've switched off YouTube entirely. I'm just on the Zoom. But for me, you asked at the beginning, what started one off as a space nerd? For me, it was Apollo 8, and I so vividly remember that on TV. We only had color TV around that time, so not only were we seeing TV and color in the UK, but then we had all the Apollo activity. And I remember so vividly, it was, I think, Christmas '68, yep. And the mission profile was a figure of 8 around Earth and the moon,
yep.
Which, you know, it's 1968, Apollo 8 doing a figure of 8 around the moon, and it was such a triple memorable thing that stuck in my mind. And how old was I? I was 15. So I think a 15-year-old seeing something amazing and new for the first time, that will stick in their mind for life. And then, of course, there was 9, when I can remember the sequence, because 9 tested the LEM in Earth orbit, 10 tested the LEM in moon orbit, and then 11 landed. And I followed all of them. And even at school, we were allowed to watch television, whatever time it was. We were allowed to watch the moon landings on television, probably quite late at night sometimes. I was at boarding school.
Well, here's hoping we get that back, right? We get some of that passion back. Going backwards a quick step from the community, there are 2 comments I want to highlight. The first one is from Joseph Gruber, who said, plane landings are routine, but we still hang out at the fences at airports. Yeah, but like, not a lot of people do, but I think you're not necessarily wrong. Although, to a point, there's probably also the sound and energy of the airplane landing. There's a certain awesomeness to that engineering that you get to experience as it's landing.
It's a good thing they're not electric.
There's an ongoing debate about the sound of cars in our Discord channel. So if you'd like, somewhere in one of our links somewhere, you can, yeah, Jared's just laughing. You can hit up our Discord channel and you can debate me on how I think cars should be silent, like electric cars. And then the second point actually comes, I missed it, comes from Brad, who says, I'm a relative newbie, so landings are still cool to me. And I think that goes to Zach's point, which is like, yeah, okay, as space nerds, we get used to these things and they kind of become commonplace, which, by the way, was our slogan for many years, Space Vidcast, making space commonplace. So awesome, we're starting to do that. I mean, not Space Vidcast, but we as humanity are starting to do that. And I get that, but there's always going to be someone who's introduced to it for the first time. And being able to point to, and Jared's nodding his head, being able to point to a rocket launch and not just going, hey, this happened, a little while ago, but also then saying, you know what, let's watch this live together. Now watch what happens next. We're going to land this thing. I think is pretty awesome. The only thing I think is really missing is it's really hard to understand the scale and scope of a rocket on a screen. Like you just don't understand the sheer size and power of these things. It doesn't look as big as it actually is. I've never figured out how to fix that. So, all right, let's move on. So we go. Actually, no, Derek, go ahead. By the way, that is a great technique. If you raise your hand, I might see it because I've got a screen that shows me. So go ahead, Derek.
You mentioned the scale picture. I have one photo from STP-3, which it was an Atlas launch, but a friend of mine took it while I was walking back from setting my camera, and I'm standing in front of, I think it's one of the Padlocks tanks, and I'm about 300 feet from the rocket in this photo, and yet I'm minuscule. And I think that's the best scale I've ever had in a photo. Let me see if I can pull it up and find it again.
I have no idea how sharing on Zoom is going to work in this exact moment. It'll be interesting. Give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'll see what I can find. Hold on.
Also, gotta make sure no one is pinned, because otherwise things might go to chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to watch chaos happen on air, everyone. It's going to be fun. So you locate that, and because I think that's important for people to help understand the scale of these things. Jared, I feel like you raised your hand earlier as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the power of spaceflight and new people being introduced to it. I went to the launch of DART, and I had my Jeep with 3 people in it who had never seen a launch before. And even though we were not in an ideal place to watch it because of some of the low-hanging clouds and haze that night, but we saw it. It was beautiful. We got some of the noise from it, and for me, it was just like, man, like I wish I could have had them a lot closer. But for those my 3 friends that had never seen a launch before, got to see it. It was just mind blown. Absolutely, they're now addicts of space. They, their Twitter feeds for the launches that have happened recently, I've seen them talk about them, and they're not space people. That's the thing. So, it's just a power in space flight for people, the uninitiated, if you will, that really kind of brings out that desire in people.
And then you cruise by Hawthorne and see the rocket on display on your way home from Vandenberg to just like double blow your mind.
I do actually recommend that if you're ever in California, Southern California, if you land in LAX, SpaceX is only a 15-minute drive, if that, from LAX, and they've got a first stage booster. It's the OG2 booster, the very, very first booster that SpaceX ever successfully landed, is sitting outside. It's only the first stage, and if you can find a place to park over there, which is kind of tricky, but if you can find a place to park over there, you walk up to it and just like stand under it and look up at it. There's something weird about rockets where you don't actually understand their scale until you're standing next to them and looking up at them. Even if you're in a car driving past them, you're like, oh, that's pretty big. I don't know why. You need to stand. Why are you? Jared's laughing at me, but you need to like stand there and actually like look at it, like right under it, and you go, what, this thing's, they landed this out at sea. That's incredible.
Well, airplanes have people holes.
Airplanes do have people holes. How is that relevant, Dada?
That gives you a sense of scale.
Okay, I guess. Well,
it's really great how SpaceX is now sharing them at other places where people can get a chance to experience that for themselves, like the one that's now at Space Center Houston. We want more of that.
KSC as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of that. So I think it will really just allow that opportunity for people to have that experience you described, Jamie, that I've been lucky to have underneath that one outside the SpaceX Hawthorne factory. It is exactly as you described. So very special. And you can't describe it. You can describe it, but to get the feeling, you've got to be there.
I do want to make an awkward aside, unrelated to anything we're talking about, because I'm about to change topics. So as I do that, there is a new feature that Terrence is working on in the chat room, and it's Showbot, a link to Nightbot. And so this gives you, the viewers, anyone watching live, you have the ability, including all of our guests, in the chat room, if you just type !S for submission, and then space, and then what you want to call this episode, you can actually submit a name for this episode, and we can vote on it, and whatever we vote on, that will be the episode name. And we'll try to kind of do it moving forward, but fun thing to play with. All right, so we've lingered on SpaceX and booster landings and like all that for a hot minute. Let's kind of move on. So Mike started us off with like some of the stuff. One of the things he was excited with. Let's move to actually, John, you joined in a little bit late. So how dare you? I'm just kidding. So welcome as a guest. Why don't we start with you next? We haven't tested your audio again, living dangerously.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we got you great. What were you excited about in 2021?
Oh, 2021. Wow. Boy, I would have to say, earlier this year with the Starship tests, That was this year, right?
I mean, yeah,
we seem to have kind of lost our way, at least, in the summer. And, there were a few, static fire tests, but were the flights last year?
I think there were flights last year.
There were flights this year, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was it, 15 that successfully landed without burning itself? But yeah, that would have to be the biggest part for me, except the successful launch of the JWST. That was kind of a hold your breath moment and hope to God it works.
I think you're still holding your breath though, right? Because we don't know if it's working
we
yet.
all are.
Yeah. That's an extended breath holding.
Yeah.
Actually, so Raj,
well, you watch it and it's like a slow motion. If you watch the, I think NASA has it, and a lot of people on YouTube are posting it. The progress of the JWST as it heads out to L2, and it's like slow motion. It's like just open up like a flower or something right now, and get it over with. But I totally understand the whole thing, and I can't wait till the first images come back from that, and the work of thousands of people over decades will be vindicated. And, we, mankind, will get the opportunity to look even further into the universe with even more clarity. Boy, but isn't that like 6 months after it gets to L2?
Yeah, it takes a minute. It's going to take a minute, and then I think Dud has actually pulled up one of the links that thank you, Ryan, for giving us that link.
Very welcome.
You can actually see a timeline of when everything's going to happen, and I think kind of extending the thought of James Webb Space Telescope, because that was a major epic thing that happened in 2021. Raj in the chat room asks, were you all excited to finally see James Webb Space Telescope launch? And I assume that everyone in the is going to nod their head yes. It's going to be, we'll be hard pressed to see people, no, I didn't really care, right? This was an epic moment, right?
Meh.
Meh, right? So I guess I'll start with let's start with Derek, and what was James Webb launch like for you? First off, did you stay up to watch it? Did you watch it live?
I woke up early Christmas morning to watch it live. Yes.
Yep.
But no, for me, literally, I'm only 19, so James Webb's been going on my entire life. Yeah.
Since before you were born.
Yeah.
That project started from before you were born.
Yep. No, I just remember sitting there in the morning, because I got up early, I threw it on the TV, and I just sat there, and I just remember thinking, okay, 2-hour window today, we can launch today, it'll be good. And then it went right at the start, and I was like, oh my God, it's not on our planet anymore. What have we done?
What have you done?
But no, I'm really looking forward to finally seeing what it produces. I've got a lot. It's the JPL team behind it. They've got they've done a lot before. They can do a lot again. So,
is Webb JPL or APL? It's APL, isn't it?
APL, sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Liam, how about you? Did you stay up for James Webb? Did you watch? I assume you did. How about you? Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Set the alarm and make sure the alarm is set by having a second alarm. Because I have been known to miss a launch because the first alarm was silent for some silly reason. It wasn't this time. So my single point of failure for myself was overcome. But yeah, it is just extraordinary. Just recognizing it has gone. I love what you said, Derek. It's off the Earth now. It's on its way. There's nothing more that we can do beyond signaling and commanding to actually deal with anything that comes up next. So I think it's extraordinary. I loved hearing the progress. I think Planet 4589, what's his name? Anyway, Jonathan, who tracks orbital stuff. He was posting the progress and I was following his posts too. And it's so great to get the understanding that this amazing accomplishment is launched into space, and it's basically just, it's going to reach L2. It's going fast and fast and fast, and then it's just slowing down on its route towards L2. And it's just like you've thrown something up in the air, and eventually it reaches its peak apogee, and then it starts coming back down again. But just at that point is when, obviously it will be doing various course corrections and things, but nevertheless, it sort of catches itself before it begins its fall back to Earth. I just love that whole concept of orbital dynamics as far as how that works.
So we do have an interesting comment from the chat room, but before we get to that, I did want to say, Liam, it is a little dangerous for you to be out in space without a spacesuit. Just so you know.
Yes, sorry about that. Yes, this is my deal, showing pre-recorded footage from the space station.
Is that the HDEV?
Well, HDEV is no longer here, but this is the replacement. It's called EHDC, Enhanced High Definition Camera System. And this is the one that's permanently pointing down towards the Earth, except when the Naoka module decides to do some errant booster firings and spin the space station. That's one of my exciting things for 2021 was when that happened and I was watching it live.
I think you were the one that broke that on Twitter, weren't you? Like
I sort of did, yeah.
I remember seeing you tweet that, and I was like, this can't be right. And so I searched and looked around for news articles, anything out of NASA, anything else on Twitter, and I saw nothing other than your tweets. And then I was like,
yeah.
But like, I I trusted you. And I'm like, I think there might be a thing going on right now. Yeah.
I literally heard the LOAC, loss of altitude control stuff, and saw the station spinning on the live video feed.
You want to talk about that for a minute? Because like that was a big deal, and I don't think it got enough attention. Because NASA was like, "It's fine, we trained for this." It's like, yeah, okay, but like it's kind of a big like. If you look at the XYZ plot charts of like what the station did, it moved a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the reason why I got into doing Blender animations from the live telemetry. So I regularly on my Twitter feed, my personal Twitter feed at Liam Kennedy, I capture the live telemetry that is available to the public if you know where to get it from. So on there, I can track your pitch and roll. And Scott Manley took some of my initial plots, which unfortunately exhibit something called gimbal lock, which is a software issue with how I calculate that. And it makes it look as if the station was going in some really higgledy-piggledy thing, whereas really what it did was a 540-degree flip. So, yeah, it was extraordinary when I saw it happening because it was shortly after the docking of Naoka, and things seemed to be going well, although the route of Naoka to the space station was fraught with problems as well. You know, they for a while, they didn't know if they could even get the boosters to fire to get it to reach the orbital altitude it needed to. So it was like just one thing after another. And when I was watching the live video feed about an hour after docking, and I suddenly saw this thing, the station's doing something it should not do. And yes, it is. Yes, they're all sort of trained for this, but nevertheless, there was some concern that because this is what usually happens when the station does do a maneuver, it regularly does what's called an OPM maneuver, where the station flips around 180 degrees. Every few months it does these for various reasons, dockings and things. But whenever there's anything like that happening, the solar panels are locked. So the solar panels themselves are not moving. Well, in this case, in various times, they didn't get a chance to lock the solar panels. So the solar panels were rotating. And I understood from some messages I got from some flight controllers about this incident. I was one of the first to actually create the plots, especially the 3D animation using Blender. And they wanted to know if I could also plot the angles of the solar panels because I'm sure they've done it by now, but at the time they were having meetings to consider what the stresses were involved in the station, because several days afterwards they were doing some very careful analysis of the structural issues around the station that could have happened due to that. So it was very, very exciting. And
that's an understatement, Liam.
Yeah. I just couldn't believe it as it was happening. I got to tweet several other occasions where things were happening live. For instance, the second accidental firing of thrusters.
That was a Soyuz, though, right?
It was a Soyuz. Yeah, it was actually the one that contained the three. It was the crew of the Russian actress. So it was another sort of semi-private flight, Soyuz, and it was their return vehicle that someone, during a test to make sure it would fire properly for undocking, that's where it just didn't stop firing, and it ran out of its allotted fuel. And that also spun the station, but much less of a twist than the Naoka incident. But nevertheless, two in relatively quick succession. It was quite something.
I remember, so I saw your Twitter, and then I jumped on. I was kind of listening to Space to Ground a little bit, and I was trying to determine how serious this is. And I heard something along the lines, not an exact quote, but something along the lines of unexpected loss of signal. And I went, oh, this is bad. This is really bad. And you could hear it in their voice. They were, as with everything in Houston Mission Control, they're always professional. They were always very calm, but there's this level of they're speaking a little faster than normal, and their sentences are very, very pointed and direct. And so you could tell there was just kind of this extra pucker factor with everything that they were doing, just trying to figure out what was going on. Did anyone else follow that live in the room? Was that a moment of, yeah? So Derek and Zach. So actually, why don't we start with Zach? What was that like for you when you were following that live? What were you thinking when you're like, oh my gosh, the space station is spinning?
I found it just like you from Liam's tweet, and that was actually the first time Liam and I connected over Twitter, actually. And it was just the idea of it spinning, the idea of what's the crew thinking, and going through especially as NASA kind of went on with it. Oh, we're fine. We trained for this. It's yeah, but how thin are those walls? Let's actually think about, we're twisting, take a piece of paper and twist it. It's, we're not talking crazy difference. And that we have no control over it. And at the time, we didn't know when they were going to regain control, especially if that early station to ground comms. I think, as you said, listening to that was very eye-opening of just what the procedures were and what they were going through. But it was a lot of, okay, let's just sit and wait and figure out what's kind of going on. But hearing, close the hatches, prepare the capsules, not something you want to hear on the space station. It's something that growing up, I didn't realize as a kid watching the solar rays unfold that I was watching the beginning of the space station as a kid. So it's been something that I've watched my entire life develop, and thinking, no, we're going to lose this before we have a replacement, which now we know it's going to take 5 to 10 years. What are we going to do if we don't have a low Earth orbit laboratory or observatory? What science are we going to lose? What research is going to expire and get delayed? So my mind was going to the what ifs, not necessarily for the station, but for what we get out of station.
Okay, so that's an interesting question. Do we feel that a low Earth laboratory is a more fun way to say that, is super useful as compared to say a L2? Well, let's actually say a lunar laboratory, something further in deeper space. Is there more value in something that's closer to, say, the moon, as opposed to something that's still within the protection of our magnetosphere? Or is there value in something close to Earth? I'll leave it for the whole group. Yeah, Zach, you're still up, so I'll leave it back to you.
I think for some of the stuff they're working on with the medical industry of kind of being able to change how we look at maybe doing skin grafts and things in the future using DNA cells, we need something this close. We can't do multi-day sending up, multi-day sending back. We need to have that kind of direct access for it. But I think we're getting to that point where all of them are going to be necessary. We're getting those different views. And I think James Webb is really going to show that in, what can we see so different from here with Hubble versus doing a bigger mission out to that L2 point. Let's see the difference. Obviously, it's a different type of telescope as well, but is it necessary? I think so. And I think there's so much we get out of space that we would just take for granted. So much stuff that we've gotten from the Apollo program and from the ISS program that we use every day. So I think we need both.
Nick has literally raised his hand in the Zoom. So I'm going to pass it to Nick because you can actually see his hand raised up. So Nick, your thoughts?
Obviously been doing a lot of Zoom over the last 2 years.
We've all gotten very good at it at this point, yes.
Yeah, I mean, microgravity is the big thing that so many different uses are there for, and low Earth orbit is fine for that, or middle Earth orbit. Lunar wouldn't be microgravity at all, so I'm not sure what science would find it better on 1/6G than effectively 0G. And the L2 point seems a very long way to go. I mean, the main benefit is stuff that you get sunshine, where you can get some sun shielding. You're behind the Earth, and you're not quite in the shadow, are you? But I can't see the point of going a long way to go to L2. Whereas low Earth orbit's quick up, quick down, and lots of microgravity for all the stuff you might want to do there.
I think I would agree with L2. Well, I think I would agree with L2. I think the big thing for me, at least with the International Space Station, it is still protected by a magnetosphere to a pretty large degree. So, radiation bombardment and deep space observation is really difficult for us to do actual science on. So if we're going to use this as a way to send humans to distant worlds, our own moon or Mars, you don't have all of the data necessary. And Liam has, now you're all raising your hands in Zoom, so I'll pass it over to Liam, who's raised his hand.
Yeah, so really what I'm chatting about is to do with microgravity experiments, which cannot really be done anywhere other than microgravity, of course. So I think the moon is a perfect long-term place, I think, for us to establish a base where we're doing those kinds of experiments that are appropriate in a lower gravity environment. But and partly that's just because I'm, ever since Space 1999, I've just wanted there to be a lunar base. But microgravity, I think that's where there are ability to do the kinds of experiments that cannot be done in a gravity based environment. So I don't think we're ever not going to be in a position where it will be valuable to have a low Earth orbit space station. So I'm really looking forward to the developments coming up, for having those kinds of low Earth orbit space stations still in existence. Obviously now with the recent release today of NASA's information about the Biden-Harris administration, speaking to guaranteeing the space station is going to be there until 2030. So that just came out today on New Year's Eve, a Friday, a slow news day. So, and just where we're going in that area. So, yeah, that's where I am with that. I think there's experiments in low Earth orbit that still need to happen there. And yet I still want to have a base on the moon.
Oh, don't we all, though? Like, I think we're all excited to go back to the moon. Mars is fun, too, but there's something about the moon where you can just walk outside and you can look up at night and you can point at it and everyone knows where it is and what it is, right? Mars is a little bit harder. Go ahead, John. No audio, John. Unmute. we still can't hear you, John. Unmute your microphone. There you go. There you go. There you go.
I guess I was off mute the whole time. It's like I don't know. Anyhow, what we've, in the next 50 years, I see us developing the cislunar economy. Low Earth orbit is for basically manufacturing in the microgravity environment, where it's closer to Earth, where you can manufacture stuff like, really good fiber optics. And also they're talking about, what was it? Making human parts, organs and stuff like that in microgravity. That would pay, the bill for doing it there. The moon and such is a place for resources, and also a kind of a place to build as a kicking off point. So over time, we'll build an economy between the Earth and the moon, and that will be built up enough to where we are ready to really jump off into deeper space. The stuff like Mars. I love what Elon's doing with Starship and stuff, and we need Starship. Don't get me wrong, but Starship can be used for more than a cannonball run to Mars before we are ready. So that's kind of the way I'm seeing it. So we need it all. We need LEO, GEO, lunar. We need to establish ourselves there. We need to get used to living in microgravity and in situations where radiation is really high, because we're basically outside of the Earth's magnetic belt to protect us. And we'll learn, we'll adapt, and then we'll move on. And that's kind of the way I see it. So
Jared, you had your hand up. Do you still, then you took it down. Do you still have I can hand it to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think one of the things that we really forget about with the International Space Station is that it's been up and operating since 1998, and it's had a continuous human presence for over 21 years now. And that's been extremely valuable in learning how to perform a mission over a very long period of time. Before the International Space Station, the United States had done 84 days maximum on Skylab 4. We hadn't even touched 3 months. So we really didn't know how to actually run long duration missions. And if you're going to go somewhere like Mars, you're 2.5 years total on a mission for that. If you want to return, at least. If you're going to stay, then you're going to be obviously there permanently, and you kind of need to understand long-term operations. So that's a very advantageous thing to me for low Earth orbit, mostly because if something goes wrong, you can get back very, very quickly. But yeah, just a little thing, because I know a lot of people say that the International Space Station is useless. It's we've been stuck there in low Earth orbit and other things, but at the same time, to me, being in low Earth orbit 20 years, we've kind of ended up learning how to actually run a mission for 20 years. And that's pretty long. And that's going to be very handy for us once we go out further.
Jared, I'm going to have to buy you Starlink in 2022. Your bandwidth is terrible. But we got you. We got you. We heard you. We heard you. All right. So, Mike, you started us off with the 2021 stuff, and I'm gonna have you start us off again with 2022. Looking forward, what are you most excited about in 2022?
There's a lot of stuff to be excited about. I think J-Dub unfolding and maybe finding aliens. That would be pretty cool in 2022. Maybe even maybe there might be a little drama with the unfolding, but if it all gets settled out, that would be fine. But a little excitement is always fun. Psyche.
Well, hang on. I'm going to pause you on that one. A little excitement is fun for everyone but the engineers who designed it. It might be fun for you, but there are people who are sweating bullets on right now up until it's actually operational.
Yeah. No excitement on JW. No. We've had enough. $10 billion delays. No excitement. Let's get it out there and turn it on.
It wouldn't be epic if that were all it is. You launch it into L2 and you just flip a switch and it's on.
Let's do it.
I'm sorry. All right. So, Mike, continue.
I think I was saying I think the Psyche mission is going up this or next year. That's going to be exciting. Obviously, seeing a orbital Starship launch, if that is approved, would be amazing. Perseverance still trucking. Curiosity is still trucking. So just watching that, watching that daily click that daily Sol clicking away is always fun. What else? What am I forgetting? Oh, we're going to have a whole bunch of cool landings on the moon, hopefully, right? So we're going to start a whole new page of some private people landing stuff on the moon. Maybe some cryptocurrency landing on the moon. I don't know I don't even really know what a cryptocurrency is. If anyone can explain it, that'd be great.
Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Oh, you've doomed the channel now. Oh, man. Oh, what are you doing to us?
Feel free to tweet me and, give me some financial advice on crypto. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Like everyone make an NFT of Mike.
Yeah. I believe the European Space Agency is sending a mission. I think it's called Juicy or Juice. That's going to go sniff out. I think some moons of. I think it's. I don't know, Jared. Catch me if I'm wrong. Saturn, Jupiter. One of the big ones. One of the big dogs.
Jupiter.
So that'll be cool. What else? One thing I'll say that's going to be a little boring, but I think it's cool, is just watching that James Webb website. I mean, I think that for the average citizen, just being able to track something like that over a website is pretty cool too. So I've caught myself checking that out. And so if they keep doing that with other missions, that'll be a really cool thing to keep an eye on,
Well, I want to give Zach a quick shout out because I think, Zach, is it your channel that actually has a live stream going 24/7 of the James Webb? It's basically got this timeline on the bottom, a count up, I think it is. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. I've actually gone to it a couple times on YouTube just to do a real quick status check of where we are. It's actually a really great little asset that he's got going on. So if you are interested in, Zach, how can people find that live stream?
I'll grab a link. Thanks for checking it out. Yeah, we love that the website's there, and I think, like Mike and many others have said, we hope that NASA does this more and other agencies as well, because I think I've been absolutely blown away, and not statistics or anything, because it doesn't matter, but we all want more people to watch it. We've had millions of views in the last 96 hours of this. That's how excited people are, and we're talking with people in the chat around the world. And the amazing part is we've had numbers of people from the James Webb team dropping in the chat and talking with people and answering questions, because there are a lot of them that have built it that aren't necessarily going to do anything now, are just as anxious to see if their kind of baby actually deploys and works, but they want to be surrounded in a community. So it's been neat for that, but I'll grab a link for that.
Yeah. Drop it in the chat room, and then Dada can try to bring it up on, and so everyone can see it, because it's actually pretty cool.
It helps with the anxiety. It's like a big James Webb Xannax. You can just check in, make sure everything's okay, and then go back to whatever you're doing.
I feel like that is the title of the show, a James Webb Xannax.
Yeah.
Jared might need one of those, or two.
Or 29 or 344
or 300. Yeah, it's not 344. It's not 344. Anyone? Let's go to Steve. Actually, what are you excited for in 2022?
Hey, thanks. So I'm really appreciative of the engagement of the space agencies to elevate their coverage of their events, and I think that's a nod to channels like TMRO and coverage of SpaceX, channels like Dr. Becky and Scott Manley and Boca Chica Mary, just generating interest and showing what people really want to see and how engaged they are. And I think James Webb, if you go out there right now, you can tell how many miles they are away from Earth right now. They're just so close to 50% of the way there. One of the things I've learned from that site is just, I was thinking once you get off Earth, you're done with Earth's gravity, but you're not. JWST is fighting Earth's gravity the whole way. Its cruising speed is reducing the entire way out to L2. It's amazing to watch how its velocity is reducing as it gets out to L2. It's so amazing how powerful gravity is. Even almost 500,000 miles away from Earth, it's still dragging on stuff. It's still pulling it in. It's amazing. It's crazy. So in the next year, I'm worried about Kessler effects in satellite space and garbage collection and low Earth orbit. I think the Russians did a crazy thing this year, blowing up a satellite in low Earth orbit and just creating a mess that everybody has to keep track of.
To be fair, they're not the first ones to do it, right? So Russia did it, China did it, the United States has done it.
Absolutely, but you'd think we'd know by now.
They did it big time, bigger than anyone else, though.
This is not a good thing to do.
They had a reason.
I think an evolving story that's going to happen, I think in the next few years, is this Bernardinelli Bernstein comet that's coming. I think this comet is a huge comet that's coming into the inner solar system, and I think we have a great opportunity to kind of observe this heavenly body that's coming in, and I think we should really think out of the box of our opportunity to kind of go study this body, and I can't wait to see what people come up with on that. But that's what I'm looking forward to.
So someone, and I missed who it was, someone said that Russia had a good reason for the ASAT test. I don't actually know what that reason is.
I believe they did it as this. I don't want to sound like conspiracy or anything like that, but there are strategic reasons that Russia did that, not just as a message to say we can do it, but countries like Russia and China are not happy, I would say, about Starlink, because Starlink can impede on the security of their states, and where I think the anti-satellite hit the satellite was in approximately close to the orbits where Starlink is at. And I think with the growth of SpaceX internationally in the context of more of a strategic overlook. They are impeding on these other nations. And, it's like what happened recently with the Chinese space station, where they said they had to maneuver their space station to avoid a Starlink satellite. I think this is going to be more and more of a problem for Starlink and SpaceX as a whole. And so that's why I think that was a message. It wasn't the entire message that Russia sent, but it was part of the message that Russia sent with using, doing an anti-satellite direct demonstration in Earth orbit so late, when just about everyone could do it, including India. So
I hope that's not the case. I don't know why they did it. Like, if that is true, it seems very childish of them. But what do I know?
Yeah, who else was up live when that happened? I was too. It was another one of those moments where I got to hear the space to ground traffic of the astronauts being woken up early in order to deal with that.
They put their own cosmonauts in danger by doing that.
Yeah,
yeah.
It just absolutely ridiculous, and the amount of
crazy,
the amount of debris now. Thankfully, it's being tracked a lot more accurately than it used to be, but nevertheless, just extraordinary. And that was another point where we got to hear, because the crew had to safe haven into their respective spacecraft, that there was the time when that was the first time that SpaceX had to deal with their spacecraft being used in that manner. And there was some very interesting space to ground traffic where Hawthorne was on the line, Mission Control Houston was on the line, and you could hear everyone dealing with what they were having to do as far as procedurally to deal with this. And the question was whether they should prepare to leave if the Crew Dragon had a hit. And it was an interesting conversation where Houston overruled what was one of the comments was, yes, you should just we'll get you to undock and leave right away. And then Houston said, no, we're going to belay that. We will have you all go back into the station and we'll assess from there.
Huh.
So it was a very interesting, to be a fly on the wall. It still amazes me that we get that opportunity with space to ground traffic on one of the live video feeds.
I feel bad for the Houston controllers, because I feel like the end of 2021 for them was just like filled with extra excitement, and they must have all aged a decade in the last month of the year or so, month or two. Like, not fun.
Some very interesting Twitter live tweets from the flight controllers and flight directors where they were really reacting to that. So, you were getting the sense they were remaining professional in the places they needed to be, out there in the public. But you could very, very well see that this was not the kind of shift that they wanted to wake up and walk into handling in mission control.
Yep. Let's move on to the last part that I kind of wanted to talk about with everyone, which is what made you a space geek? Like, what was that tipping point for you where you're like, I love this stuff. This is a lot of fun. And let's start with Derek, because Derek's got his hand up. Start over there, assuming that's the topic you wanted to talk about. But if you've got another topic, because you brought your hand up.
That is.
Yeah.
I mentioned this briefly to you right before we started. But for me, as a kid, the first rocket, for me, I always had a passing interest because I lived in Florida and I got to see a few shuttles as a kid. But Ares 1 and Ares 5 to me were the first rockets I ever followed closely in development. Particularly, I remember every day going to NASA.gov and looking what's the newest thing on Ares 1. And, you know, I didn't know about any of the space news stuff. I didn't know about the community. I was just a kid wanting to see my Apollo program take place. And it's weird being where we are now because it's so different. And yet I feel like we are in the strongest space program we've ever had. I mean, what space program in history has had 2 super heavy lift rockets potentially coming online within 2 weeks of each other? Like, that is unheard of. And yet that's what we're looking at next year. And it was those kind of things because my mom, she got to see the Apollo 11 launch in person. And, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I'm going to get to see that in my lifetime now that I've dreamed of since I was extremely little. So that's what got me into it. And I like spreading that to other people, getting them excited about it because it is exciting. So
what's really interesting is you're talking about Ares 1 and Ares 5, and there is, and Primal Duo on Twitter would be very angry at me saying this, but there's heritage from Ares 5 in Space Launch System. So all of that stuff that you were excited about with the Ares 5 kind of worked its way through the government bureaucracy and ended and solidified on Space Launch System. So you've actually kind of watched it from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, really, SLS and Ares 5, there's a lot of fundamental differences, but capability-wise, especially once we get to Block 1B and Block 2, it's what I've been following since day one, and we're watching that unfold here. And now, alongside of it, now we're effectively going to have a space shuttle that we can then refuel and send it out to the moon with it. And we're building an insanely strong space program, and I think next year we're going to see a lot more people start to realize that having all of this available is better than having just one of it.
Ryan, thank you very much for the image. He posted this in Discord. It renders a little bit funny on our systems, but you'll get the idea. Yeah. And that is that is Space Launch System and an Ares 5. And you know, it's not to say that Ares 5
the difference.
Yeah, it's not to say that Ares 5 is the Space Launch System. I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think what I'm saying is there's a pathway from Ares 5 to Space Launch System. There's
absolutely
you get to SLS through the Ares 5. Yeah. So awesome. Let's actually, Liam, you're next in the quad view. We're moving across the quad view. It's not a quad view. It's a octave view, I guess. Yeah. Liam, what got you passionate about space? What was that tipping point for you?
It was, and I'm an Apollo child. So I was 6 years old in the UK. So that was what really just established my interest in space. I was just that 6-year-old who was the reason why my dad was forced to stay up all night because we didn't know when the BBC were going to be sharing the first moonwalk. And for us, although it landed at 9 p.m. ish, I think UK time for me, the actual walk was going to be variably at some future time. So my dad stayed up, sitting in front of the TV, and then we all got woken up early in the morning to view the first footprints of mankind on the moon. And I've just been enthralled in that view of us as human beings ever since then. I've got to say a 6-year-old can feel that just as hard as anyone else can. And I think that's something for all of us to remember. Although, now I'm getting on a little bit in my years. It's something, I think, Derek, what you said really called to me. You're 19 years old, but, you found a way that there was something that got to you that had you get interested. And we've all got to find our own ways to do it. And I've got to say for 2022, I think that's what I'm looking forward to, are all of those opportunities where a whole new crop of people can find their own reason to be inspired by what we can do as humankind when we work together. That's what it really all means to me. It's just amazing. If only at 6 years old, I'd realized that, hey, just because the UK's own space program dies on the vine, so to speak, the Black Hour, I think it was called, and we gave up doing anything in space at that time, I realize now, hey, I could have just still set my sights to come over to the USA and work at NASA. Now I get my own version of that, being an education partner with the ISS National Lab. But that's what I think is available to all of us, is being inspired in your own way. There's so many different ways that you can find your place in space.
Find your place in space. I like alliteration. That's fun. Thank you, Liam. Jared, I know we did a bunch of the stuff in the beginning before I kind of was like, this is too formal. Let's break it up. Did we get to how you became a space nerd? I don't remember.
No, we didn't touch on that, but I can definitely, talk about it a little bit. So. Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I pretty much blame my parents for I was very lucky as a kid, and I had parents that were very supportive of me and very much like, oh, you want to go try DAS? Well, you'd be the only boy there, but go for it. And Dad working at Northrop, you're probably, I had to pull this down, obviously, you're probably well familiar with some of my dad's best work there. That and getting to see things like that. And then my mom pursuing that and really just feeding that desire that I had to be just to learn as much as I could and soak everything up like a sponge. And living near JPL, that's pretty much what that was like my bread and butter as a kid growing up. Like, yeah, sure, shuttle was happening, but I had JPL in the backyard. So things like Mars, things that I remember are things like Mars Pathfinder, the first rover we landed on Mars, or also I'm trying to think of all the missions that get Deep Space One was one that I can remember. I was like, an ion engine, what the heck is that? Oh, that sounds so cool. So all these different missions happening in my own backyard, getting to go to JPL and see these things during JPL open houses, and my parents basically saying, go for it. And whatever you need, we'll make it happen. That definitely got me interested in space flight, and basically has led to where I am today, which is here on Tomorrow and elsewhere, and having a great time sharing the universe with everyone.
You've got a fun, exciting future ahead of you. I'm excited to see where that goes in 2022. Hopefully great things for you. I think we hit a couple of Children of Apollo next. Next up with Nick, how did you become, I'm going to have to assume Apollo, but like what got you attached to space? What made you a passionate space nerd?
Well, I talked about it earlier, Apollo 8 onwards, watching on live TV. The landings as well are incredibly dramatic with the aircraft carriers in the Pacific and the helicopters and all that. That was just amazing. Got me hooked. I mean, I guess I was aware of Gemini before that. I think Mercury, I was just too young. And Gemini didn't get really live coverage on TV that I remember. There may be some, but it's black and white and very grainy as far as I remember anything. I still don't know if I was watching any of it live. But beyond that, it's been human spaceflight that's really been of interest to me. Although things like Falcon, I mean, landing that first booster, that was something, wasn't it? And so now it's Starship for me. I mean, the science stuff is interesting and so on, but some of it works, some of it doesn't. They last a few years, and the missions sort of aren't getting the publicity after the first enthusiasm, at least publicly. But the Starship will just change everything if it succeeds. And that's, going to be the big watch for me for 2022.
The next child of Apollo is Steve, right? So same question to you. How did you become a hardcore space nerd?
It's been several iterations, really. Apollo, of course, I was, maybe 6 or 7 when the walk happened, and it's one of my first memories I can put a date to. But it it stayed with me my whole life. Shuttle, you know, the whole disaster happened on live TV during my college years, and just it was heartbreaking to lose these people dedicated their lives to the betterment of our understanding of our place in the world. You know, folks, you know, I guess I took a hiatus from there, kind of took a break, but found my way back to space through outlets like TMRO, actually. Just a passionate expression of things going on in space, and a community of people that really genuinely cared about how we reach out to what's out there. And just, you know, between Jared and Jamie and Dutta and the whole folks there at TMRO, I'm just really thankful for your commitment to telling us what's going on every week. It's hard to stay up with everything going on at the moment, but one of the most endearing things I can say is the ingeniousness of NASA and the human spirit to overcome obstacles. The stuck high gain antenna, where how are they going to fix this problem? And they noodled over it. And you had the smartest people in the world thinking about the physics of having this device so far away from us and being able to think of rotating it to oscillate its temperature to create a physical manifestation in a device that's so far away from us and correct a problem. Unbelievable. As a software person, hardware always boggles my mind because it really has to work. Software you can always patch. Hardware has to work.
Sometimes you have to patch hardware too.
It's so amazing, you know, so amazing. And so just the ingenuity of humans, of what we've done, really has inspired me.
So next on the list is Zach, not a child of Apollo. I assume you're not really a child of shuttle either. Are you, like, your generation is Artemis? Like an upcoming generation. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, kind of the middle. I was born right at the end of 95, the end of December of 95. So I was lucky enough to catch kind of a decade of the shuttle, but obviously as a young kid through it. I don't really know where space entered the home, but it was just something that was there. My grandfather was a ham radio operator. And one of my, earliest memories as a kid, I was drawing Space Shuttle at 3. That was one of the first things as a kid that I obsessed over drawing accurately. But as a kid, being a ham radio operator, we had the opportunity to talk to the station a few times. And I think from that point, from this room actually, but from that point on, space seemed accessible, even though it was very much not at that point. It was, we'll just go downstairs and we'll call the space station if they're flying overhead and talk to an astronaut. Why not? Didn't do it often, but it was a really neat thing to know that's what, that with technology we could do that, and then seeing how technology evolved. Followed shuttle extremely closely to the point where a local restaurant put in a TV so we could watch the shuttle one night, and that was watching their first shuttle launch. They were from Greece, and just seeing people get excited about that. I got to go down to Kennedy as a kid. I think it was 8 or 9. Didn't get to see a shuttle launch, unfortunately, but threw enough of a hissy fit to do the level 9 tour where you actually went out to the pad. It was a big hissy fit to make sure we did that. But I wanted to see that pad in person, and I wasn't getting away with it without going. And we were lucky enough the VAB doors were open and they were working on a shuttle. And, you got to see the SRB with the shuttle in there just peeking through, and I was like, okay, that's real. That's what I watch at home. And then seeing the pad, and then this year getting to go down and see Inspiration 4 for my first launch in person. I think kind of just reinvigorated it. I was lucky enough to speak with Jared right after the announcement of Inspiration 4 and kind of get to know his passion and heart behind it, and then be connected with him through the mission. And then being down there as a guest with him to see it was to be my first launch in person. One, be a Falcon 9. That's what I would have picked. But two, to be such a historical mission, which I don't think a lot of the world really picked up on how actually important that mission was, unfortunately. That, these are 4 civilians that 6 months earlier were totally normal. They were like us, not totally normal, but they agreed to get strapped on a rocket. But they were everyday people that had to go through a whole bunch of training. But it was something that this isn't years of training through NASA now, and hoping to maybe get selected for a mission to the station. It is becoming accessible, and then we're seeing that with Suborbital, to the point where it's now a joke on my channel that when we hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm supposed to buy a Suborbital flight to space. So I'm not sure where that's going to go.
I don't think the YouTube income quite supports that just
no.
yet.
It was a joke at 1,000 subscribers, and now it's getting real that number's ticking up, and it's like, well, we might push that to 1 million, but we'll see. It's just always been there, and I think it's exciting to see it now that it's something that people want to talk about. I feel like when Shuttle ended and there was that gap, if you were following SpaceX testing early on, it was like, oh, you're a nerd, you're following this so closely, don't talk about it. But now it's like, well, why aren't you talking about space? There's always, my local news is doing a space report every night now. That's just a normal part of their segment, and we're in Edmonton, Canada, the furthest place from any launch site in the world, but home to the runway where we could have landed it, except we built buildings on it. So, yeah.
I would argue the Kodiak Launch Complex in Alaska, you're not that far from it. I mean, you're far from it.
18-hour drive?
You're far from it, but yeah.
It's almost equal to get to Florida.
Really?
I think so.
All right. 18 hours.
And that way's colder. It's minus 45 here, which is the same Celsius or Fahrenheit, no matter which way you go. It's cold. I'm not going further north.
Yeah, I'm a child from Minnesota, so I remember those temperatures, and it is not fun. Those are, when you hit that temperature, it just, the cold just seeps through the walls and everything. You can't stop it.
When I'm in the basement, so there's only one layer of laminate between me and the concrete of the house, it's fantastic.
You just turn on the studio lights to stay warm at that point. Purposely don't buy LEDs so you get warmer lights.
I'm from Minnesota too, just to let you know. So it's a nice place to be from.
Oh yeah, don't you know, you betcha.
There you go. I spent two winters there, 1994 to 95. I think it was, yeah.
Wait, you were there for 2 years? That doesn't mean you're from Minnesota.
I know, but I pretend that I was just so cold that I forgot where I was originally from.
I was there for 30 years. I much prefer the weather in California. Mike, I don't know if you're a shuttle child or a child of Artemis. What's your generation?
I think in the middle, right in the gap. I'm not. A lady never tells her age, so. The question is why I'm interested in space, because it's freaking awesome. Big explosions, some of the coolest people alive, like astronauts, scientists, doing cool stuff. I mean, nature, people love, going outside, going on nature walks. Well, that's only a small fragment of what nature actually is. Like, there's all sorts of planets and stuff out there that would be really cool to take a little stroll on and check out. So, yeah. And how I got involved, it's kind of similar to a lot of people. I was never really into space. I'm more of a history kind of guy, but went on. It sounds very similar to what Elon has said in interviews. Went on one day, when are we going to Mars? And just logged on and was like, oh, we can't. We don't know how yet, or there's not enough money. No bucks, no start, or no bucks, no
Buck Rogers.
Buck Rogers, But so then I kind of landed right in the middle where I could I think it was one day I saw that first SpaceX video where they were landing the actual capsule and the animation, you know, and I said, "Ooh, this is kind of interesting. You know, that's never gonna work. This will be fun to watch." And so that kind of, you know, and then of course through all the landings of the boosters and all the attempts, that was a lot of fun. And then, you know, you just get swept up in all of it, you know, the science of all of it, you know. That was the second half, you know, it was more the rock and roll, the rockets, the explosions, the cool stuff. But then, you know, got involved with the Planetary Society, stuff like that. And you just realize, like, not only is it cool, but there's a lot of beauty in there too. And it's really kind of amazing. Just what humans, you know, we're basically, you know, higher apes, and look what we can do. What are we going to do in another 50 years? So I guess that's my little spiel there.
I do have a very important follow-up question, which is, what is the name of the puppers you've got that decided to walk up and go to sleep right behind you?
That's her name's, I call her Roxy. Her name's Roxanne.
She's very cute. Very well behaved too. Yeah.
She just wants her dinner. She's waiting for us to wrap up so she can have second dinner.
You said dinner and that ear moved.
If you need to go feed her, like, feel free. Or if you want to bring dinner on camera, that might be fun too. That's a great way to close the show. John, I think you're the final child of Apollo. What got you passionate about space?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was born in '65, so I was like the first of Generation X. That doesn't really mean much for this, but I really don't remember much of Apollo except for the tail end. And I remember watching the launch of one of the modules off the moon. And when it watched, you know, and I was just a little kid. And when it launched off the moon, there was the, I think it was a Star Spangled Banner or something like that. So my thought was, as a little kid, that there was a little record player in the landing part. And so that's my earliest memory. My second memory was getting, we had these encyclopedias, you know, books, encyclopedias, you know, A through E. And every year we'd get a new yearbook. And in the yearbook was information about the space shuttle. And it was very artistic, let's say. It illustrated the launcher as being a bigger space shuttle with a smaller space shuttle on top of it. And I was really intrigued by that, you know, so it'd go up like that and launch and come down. And they showed, you know, all the illustrations of that. And I was really fascinated with that. And so, you know, my interest grew. Come, you know, 1976, the bicentennial of the United States. That is when the Viking landers landed on Mars. And it was a really big deal. And I remember watching on PBS, public television, you know, station, because other stations would not sit there for hours as these lines and lines and lines and lines of images from Mars would come in. And I was just glued to the TV for that. And the same thing happened. And, you know, that was like the first real look at the Martian surface. It was amazing. And it was mostly rocky, which is kind of disappointing for some reason because it was kind of boring. But I also had the same experience with Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. And I think Pioneer, but Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, the images that came back were much better, but they were still, I believe, coming back in those lines. So they'd sit there and they'd wait for them to come back. And I remember that one time I was watching the television when Io, you know, the image of Io came in, and they noticed there was something fuzzy at the horizon of Io. And later on, in the news, they found out that was a volcano, an active volcano. And that was just, astounding, even to a young person as I was at that time in that was probably 77 or so, I believe. Maybe a little later. But, then, I've always seemed to have an interest in space. I don't know when it really began. Maybe it was when I thought the record was playing on the lunar lander as it lifted off with the Star Spangled Banner and stuff like that. But I was really into the space shuttle and stuff too. And I'll tell you guys, I felt the delays of the space shuttle just as we have the delays of SLS and stuff like that now. And I remember, what was it, 81, when they launched the first shuttle. That was like the apex, at that time for me.
It reminds me of the quote from Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, all of this has happened before. It will all happen again. Something along those lines. Some good sci-fi. Also, similar question to you. I see a very clean kitten behind you. What's their name? What's their story?
Her name is Miri. Once upon a time, there were two little girls going door to door to try and find a house for the cat. And I had two cats at the time, and I said yes with a sight unseen. And I took her in, and she was like a little kitten, like this big.
Aww.
And I asked the girl, what's her name? And she said Mary. And I said, okay. Mary just didn't seem right to me. And being a Star Trek fan, there is a show called Miri, Miri, and which fit, and that's how she got her name.
That is adorable. And going back to Mike, like, this is Pet's hour at this point. Mike, did you feed her? Does she have her food, or is she still waiting? Oh, you're muted. That's fine. No. You have puppy. It's okay, but it's adorable.
She can wait. She's good. She's good at waiting. But yeah, she'll be mowing down here in a few minutes, I'm sure. Same as me.
And closing it out, Liam, I forgot. Did we? So I think you moved in my multi-view, and I was having a hard time keeping track of everyone. Did we get to your origin story? Or I forget.
You did.
Okay,
I'm all orangined out. Apple. Apollo 11.
And Ryan, I think we did your origin story in the beginning. I feel bad because we've got to get you more hosty in the show. You sat there a lot, and you got to be really tired.
It's brilliant. We should do it this time every week. This is fantastic. It's not even midnight yet.
Well, yeah, we got 18 minutes for you before it's midnight. Is that right?
Yeah, just slightly less than that. I do have to do one thing now though, because if not, my dad will kill me. He got me a present, a pre-Christmas present.
Ooh,
I'll call it.
All right, yeah.
Dutta, if you want to go to my feed.
Do you have his full screen feed working?
It's sideways.
Yeah, so your normal not sideways feed. Hold it sideways.
Hold it sideways.
Hang on.
This will work better.
Yeah, this will be great. It's in space. You know what? It's space.
Okay,
There's no up. There's no up in space.
I got
my God. I know what this is. I got a t-shirt. I know what this is, and I love it. Jared, Jared, be ready. You ready, Jared?
I'm waiting. I'm going to have to wait on the feed to see it.
Oh, you can't see right now?
No, I can't see it through Zoom.
Go onto the YouTube stream. You'll see it.
I'll describe it for you though. It's a James Webb shirt. It has the James Webb Space Telescope on the front.
Nice.
And the text in giant text on the back, 344.
That shirt is amazing. Oh
That-
my god.
That is
It's a
absolutely
beautiful
amazing.
view of the James Webb, and then you put that on the back. Okay, I see how it is.
I mean, that's how it goes, though. Like, that's, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So I think this was, for me at least, this was a really fun show. I hope everyone enjoyed it. It was kind of a little bit of a format change. I try not to change the format too much because I know everyone gets angry with me. But again, the whole point of these shows was to, be a social conversation about space and just sit down with space nerds and geek out over space. For the scripted news program where you're just getting what's happening this week in space, that would be Ryan and Jared, but Ryan right now at least. Yeah, I mean, you're both kind of, it's Ryan, doing space news, and that's a different show. It's a different thing. This is a conversational show. So hopefully one of those two works for you. Maybe both of them work for you. One thing you can do, so for those of you who are submitting possible show titles, you can actually go and vote for those. You go to TMRO.showbot.tv. I'll post that into the chat room really quick. You can go in and you can select which your favorite one was and vote for the title of this particular show based on what everyone else submitted. So that's also a new feature, kind of fun. The whole idea of these shows is that you're community driven. That's the point here. Also, I want to, the community does also help to pay for the show. Thank you, Dot. I almost forgot about this part until you brought it up. This is why having a preview screen over here is great. These are the citizens of tomorrow who help pay for the show month after month and, keep the station on orbit. There's a lot of fuel costs that go into keeping this really, right? Like there's a lot of, it's surprisingly expensive to get fuel.
We really should have put the station at L2.
We really should have. We have also got our Orbital subscribers. Again, there are different levels of subscription, whatever makes sense for you. You can go all the way down to $1 per month, which we realized is like less than one coffee. You can get 0.3 coffees or something like that for our lowest level of subscription. And you know what? Every single dollar helps. And then we also have our ground support. I almost said patrons. That's going back a ways. Members who help to contribute to the show. And I did change the order of everything. It is now sorted by the amount of time that you've been a member. Before it was just kind of willy-nilly. Whereas now it is sorted by the longer you've been a member, the higher up in the chart you are, which does kind of suck for our patrons. I'm sorry, because I can't cheat that system. I have no way of knowing. But yeah, thank you again to everyone who has supported the shows through we're going on 14 years now, if you can believe it. We've been doing this for 14 years. This is Orbit 14. Oh my gosh. Wow, how time flies. Lots of things have changed. And actually, Ryan did a really cool year-end montage. So now he's asking, do we do this in the stream or do we just publish it straight to YouTube? By the way, you could just ask me. You can interrupt me at any time.
I didn't want to interrupt you thanking all of the fantastic people who give us money.
That's fair. Donna, do you have that montage in Casper by chance?
Let me look.
So Ryan, do you want to awkwardly talk with me for a moment while, or does anyone have any final comments?
Yeah.
No.
Is that 2021 Space?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I do.
All right, we've not tried this. We have no idea if it's going to work. I have no idea if the audio is going to work. Let's go ahead and try to roll it and see what happens.
Let me see if I can find it. Okay. DDR audio channel. Rusty button pushing.
I thought I was ready to toss. I wasn't ready to toss. There we go. I see it changing.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream. If we can do this, just imagine what you can do. Hey!
Oh, that was really great, Ryan. We're going to publish a version of that that doesn't have the audio jumping. Sorry, we didn't test that beforehand, so we didn't know the audio wasn't jumping. I know that sound. That's Casper CG jumping and not able to properly decode the video. So that's on us. Sorry, but we'll post a version of that in its original form on our YouTube channel without me laughing. I'm watching that, and there was a lot of memories that I had in there, Ryan. Like, I remember lots of late nights at the office, a lot of amazing moments, a lot of very stressful moments. It was a pretty, 2021 had a lot of interesting things with the pandemic and just in general and the world as a whole. But space was pretty amazing the entire year. We did some awesome stuff in aerospace in 2021, and 2022 is looking to be even better than 2021, if you can imagine that. So I'm really, really excited for what our tomorrow will bring. Haha, see what I did there?
Keeping it on brand.
Keeping it on brand. You know, we've got 6 minutes until the 5 minutes until. Thanks, Ryan. That's great. Until the official start of 2022 in Coordinated Universal Time. And this is our last 2021 show, so I'm going to end it right before New Year's and wish everyone a great, happy 2022. I will say that Emery joined us at the very last moment. He's down here in the lower right-hand corner, and we are going to stay live with our members. And so if you would like to continue the live conversation with us, become a member. Even the lowest membership tier for even $1 per month will allow you to watch the membership, and it gives you the pre-show and the post-show. So we'll continue that. We'll get into the new year with our members. For everyone else, thank you so much for watching. This has been a ton of fun. I would love comments as to how you thought this show format worked. Is this something you'd like to see in the future? Do you want me to prune it down? Like, what were the pros and cons of doing it this particular way? And on that note, we'll see everyone in 2022. All right, members.